Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Kiran. So if you are a starseed or an indigo and you struggled with feelings of unworthiness, then this video is especially for you. Recently, I came across a spiritual teaching that helped me heal my relationship with unworthiness, and in this video, I'll share the same. So the name of the teaching is called Primordial Imprints of Separation. So let's break that down for a moment. Primordial is prehistoric and ancient. Imagine something even way more ancient than, say, Stonehenge. Imprint is to leave a mark or a stamp by pressure. So think of it like a thumb imprint. And the word of separation in this context, it refers to being separated from God. So the essence of this teaching is that millions and millions of years ago, when you separated from God, that was a highly traumatic experience for your soul, and it left a deep imprint on you. Now this imprint, much like, say, a thumb imprint, has many different layers. Starting with shock, trauma, and devastation. The next layer is lack of trust. Then comes betrayal and abandonment, fear. Then comes anger, followed by unworthiness, and finally entrapment. And while you can't see this imprint, but it's always running in your unconscious mind. Like you could be thinking or having a discussion with a friend, or maybe you feel overwhelmed. No matter what activity you do, this imprint of separation impacts how you think, how you feel, and how you show up in life. And so, if you struggle with any of these feelings, and especially those of feeling unworthy, then know this is where it's stemming from. So let's study this imprint and how it impacts you. Now, the moment you separated from God, that moment got registered as shock, trauma, and devastation. This is the first mark or imprint of being separated from God. So imagine being born as a baby on planet Earth. Here you are, all helpless and far away from God. And a part of you, a part of your soul wonders, did God abandon me? Now this first imprint of shock, trauma, and devastation leads to lack of trust, where you are not trusting God anymore. And the way this plays out in your day-to-day life is that it sets up lack of trust, where you don't trust God, you don't trust your heart, and you don't know whom to trust, because you don't trust spirit. Now, after lack of trust, the next imprint is betrayal and abandonment, which are really two sides of the same coin. Now, this imprint primarily plays out in relationships, both personal and business, where again, in your day-to-day life, you may feel betrayed by people around you, or you feel abandoned by people around you. So if betrayal and abandonment is coming up in your life, then the antidote is healing your inner child. Now, after betrayal and abandonment is fear, and fear can manifest in so many different ways in your life. From fear of getting a virus, to fear of, say, losing your financial investments, or even fear of being yourself. And no matter where you go in the world, your core fears always haunt you until you get to their root cause and address them. Now, when you have a lot of unresolved fear, one, you will resist taking actions, and second, you will be easily controlled by others. Now, after fear is cosmic rage or cosmic anger, and this happens at the stage when you start realizing how humanity has been taken advantage of for thousands upon thousands of years. And especially if you're a starseed or an indigo, you feel this pain even more deeply. And the way anger acts out in your daily life is that something small happens and you totally overreact in such situations. Or you just feel angry towards a group of people and you don't even know why. Now, if you have a lot of anger that keeps showing up in your daily life, then the root cause could be the primordial imprints of separation. Now, after cosmic anger comes unworthiness. Now, shame and guilt and unworthiness, they almost go hand in hand. When you have one, the other two will also be present. Now, what you need to understand is the actual setup on planet Earth. So think about it. If 1% of the population controls 90% of Earth's resources, then how do you perpetuate that? How do you normalize that kind of thinking? By creating a master and a slave mentality. And the only way you keep a slave is by repeatedly telling them that he or she is unworthy. And again, I want you to consider that this conditioning has been going on for generations, for thousands upon thousands of years, where people have been enslaved through this archetype and this mindset. So the true cause of unworthiness is the pain of being separated from God. And a way to clear unworthiness is, number one, educating yourself and really understanding the root cause of it and how it serves master-slave archetype, and that the root cause is the imprint of separation from God. Number two, realizing that the more you stay in shame, guilt, and unworthiness, these are like the lowest emotions on the emotional scale. And the more you stay in these emotions, the more you digress from your heart. You clear unworthiness by committing to self-love and self-acceptance, and really clearing your emotional conflicts, and reminding yourself every single day that you are loved by God. Now, the last imprint of separation is entrapment. So when you came to this planet, you knew it was a one-way ticket and you would get stuck here. So the fear of entrapment was a literal fear. But since 2012, the Earth's blueprint has shifted. So now you have the ability to leave this planet for good. So going back to unworthiness, when you feel unworthy, the root cause where it's stemming from is this imprint of separation from God. And a lot of times you will find people saying that unworthiness is a core wound. This is why. Now, I want you to think of these imprints like different layers of an onion. The innermost being shock, trauma, and devastation. Then the next layer as lack of trust, followed by betrayal and abandonment, and so on. Now, just knowing this information alone will not make the feelings of unworthiness go away. But when you start looking at unworthiness as something that stems from being separated from God, you start to shift your perception. And in the light of all the information that I have shared in this video, reflect upon questions like, who benefits if you continue being unworthy? Do feelings of unworthiness bring you closer to God? And do feelings of unworthiness bring you closer to your soul? Now, if feelings of unworthiness keep showing up in your life, then consider working with the template that I have shared in this video, and you'll definitely notice an overall shift in the intensity of how these feelings show up for you. And if you work long enough with this template, eventually the feelings of unworthiness will fade away. It may not happen overnight, but one day, I promise you it will. And you will be victorious over the negative emotions that held you back all this time. Now, in the description below, I have also linked to the article from where I sourced this information. So if you would like to explore more, I highly suggest checking it out. If you enjoyed the content, please consider joining my email list, and the link to join is in the description below. I hope these suggestions were helpful. Please only take what resonates, discard the rest. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the next video.